Hello guys, Samar on this side, back again with new tutorial video. In this video, we are going to learn about the most awaited topic of that Flutter series, that is state management. So, before starting the state management, let's understand what is the state management and what is the role of state management in Flutter. So, let's start the video. So, in the last video of that series, we learn about different type of navigation through making 4 different screens and also different methods of the navigation. Hope you remind that, so we can continue from that part as well. So just understand one thing, then we can implement the state management. Let's understand what is state management. I don't go to the definition part as well. I just want to give you example to help you understand this. Let's come to the main screen dot, and in the main screen you can see from the last couple of videos, when we update that main screen widget, we use state. But how can we use state? Because main screen is a stateful widget, and when you update any state under a stateful widget, we use state. That we understand from the last couple of videos. That's totally fine. But if I give you a situation just like when we change anything in the main screen, that also have to update it in the other screen. Just like when I increase the number in the main screen, I want that number 125 is also getting updated and shown in the second screen. How can we do that? Because in the last couple of videos we see about updating the state of a widget within a widget. Just like when we do say state, that actually update the state in the main screen, not in the second screen. Now from that video we are going to learn about how can we update another widget state from another widget. Just like we want to update the second screen state from that main screen. How can we do that? Here the state management comes into the picture. Besides that, I can give you an example from the real life scenario. Just like a shopping app like Amazon or Flipkart, what happened when you click on the add to cart button, you can see in that cart icon the quantity increased by number 1. When you even go to the cart screen, with clicking that button, you can see that item got updated in the cart screen. But how is that possible? We just click on that add to cart screen. Because when we click on that add to cart screen, that the widget of that containing add to cart is got updated alongside that helps cart widget to get updated, so that cart quantity also get updated and items in the cart is also updated. So that actually done through state management, and that's the beauty of state management. So let's understand it through an example in this last created Flutter app. So what I have to do, I just minimize here terminal, and in the second screen what I should done, I make another copy of it, and here I give a text widget. Instead of writing it again and again, I do one thing. I copied that from here. In the second screen, I write that, and let's declare that variable under the second screen. So I write here final int number and 0. Let's understand one thing here more. Why I write here final? Because as you see here, second screen is a stateless widget, and as we know, in the stateless widget, for updating the state, we can't use the say state. We can update the state in the stateless widget as well. That also possible through the state management. I will tell you how. But as you know, using the say state, you can't update the state in a stateless widget, because that also not present in the stateless widget. Just like if you want to import say state, no suggestion is coming there. Okay, so that's why we have to write here final. Okay, but I want a thing just like what the number is changing here, I want to make it here. I want to show it in the second screen. Okay, so you can say that number actually when we make in the last time, that is stored in the local storage. So take from the local storage and see there. But if we want to load it from the local storage, as you can see that get data is a future data, and in the second screen we can't call a future method from a widget tree. Just like if I here call await local storage management dot get data, that will give you error. The await expression can only used in the async function, try making a function with the async body. So just like if we make here in that way as well, when we write async here, it also give error. So in the widget tree, you can't use async await. Asynchronous operation can't be performed in the widget tree. You can perform in separate function or method, that's totally fine, but in the widget tree you can't. So now the question is, how can we get from the local storage, because here you can't provide the init state as well. Just like here, you remember in one of the previous video of that series, we here take the data from the init state, calling the initialize method, taking the latest number and paste it there. But in the stateless widget there is no scope of init state. So how can we show that the current number it is showing in the main screen 125 in the second screen as well? Now state management play a role here. What state management will do? State management actually acts like a container. So what happened? What our plan? In the main screen, whenever there is changes in that number, that number will be stored in that container, and in that from the second screen we fetch data from that container and show there. How can we do that? So for managing the state in Flutter, there is many more option is present, many more packages also present in pub.dev, just like block, provider, getx and more. You can explore it as many as, just like redux as well present there. But we used most popular and very much easy to use Flutter package for state management, that is provider. So where we can found that documentation, very much easy. As you know, we have to go to the pub.dev. Here in that pub.dev, here the documentation is already present, but that documentation may be a little bit confusing for any beginner. So what I done, I will tell you step by step. So please stay patient, and if you don't subscribe this channel till now, please subscribe it. So let's install that package at first. So just copy that package, and after installing that package, there are also changes in the native interaction as well. So we have to terminate the project at first, then install that package. That will be better. So I close the project. Now go to the prospect.yaml. In the prospect.yaml, under the dependencies, under the shared preferences that we used in one of the previous video of that series, just paste that provider. Okay. Now what we have to do, as you know, when you change anything in the prospect.yaml, we write flutter pub get. Now what we have to do, we can run the Flutter project because it will take a time to run that. So guys, our project is started. Now the state management actually works just like a container. In a container you can store a particular widget state value, and you can fetch that state value of a particular widget state from another widget state as well. So for play with that provider, what we can do, first come to the library folder. Under that library folder, make a new folder, make as provider. That's the first step. In the second step, what you have to do, you have to make a controller for that provider. So here I want to make a provider name as top level provider dot. Okay. Here I import our favorites package material dot, and I want to make a provider controller here. Okay. So just like here in the second screen, you can see when we make a stateless widget, we extend from that stateless widget. In the main screen, you can see when we make a stateful widget, we extend from the stateful widget. When we want to make a controller for that provider, how can we do that? Very easy. You have to write class, then the provider name. I name here the top level provider, and I want to inherit from just like that built-in method. Okay, so I want to inherit through extends through change notifier. Okay. So from the change notifier, we can inherit that top level provider. Okay, so that's actually now considered as a provider controller. Now what we want to do, we want to store that number in that container. That top level provider actually acts like a container there. Just like here, you can store as many value as many of the operations you can do it. Okay. Now we want to store that value under that container. So when we want to store any value under a container, we should that must be stored in a variable. So here we have to declare the variable. So by default I give here 0, or betterly to say -1. Now we have to make two things. one a set method and one some get method. Why the set method? When there is a number changes, just like when we click here, the number is changed to 126. We have to store here. We have to store in that container. So for storing or setting data in that provider controller, top level provider, we have to use a method named as set data. You can name it that method as just like your choice, but I prefer it in, just like in that. Now I give here the incoming. We take a parameter named as incoming data, and here I just give assign that incoming data in that private variable number. Okay. Now from in the second screen, we want to take that number that is present in that container. How can we do that? We can take it from the method or making a getter as well. So I prefer it with the getter stored number, that the getter name, and I write here number. Through set data method, we want to store that number that is present in the main screen 126 in that number variable of that top level provider controller, and from the stored number getter we can take that number that is stored in that container. So how can we call that set data method from main screen? Very much easy. What we have to do? After that, when we store data in the local storage, here we have to call that set data method. Okay, but how? That's the main question. Very easy. We have to write before writing anything, we have to go here and we have to import that package provider dot that the package we just installed in the Pulse Vector YAML. Now come back here, and here you have to write provider P is capital dot of context, and here also the context come into the picture. And now here you have to give the angular bracket. Here you have to give that provider controller name. For that, this is top level provider. I write here top level provider, but that not imported here as well. So let's import it. We imported there. Now what we have to do? We have to write set data, and per number we have to store number. Okay. Now that data will be stored in that container. But the main catch is that how can we get data from the second screen? So here in the second screen, what we have to do? Here we have to write provider dot okay, that provider is not imported, so let's see if the suggestion is coming or not. No, the suggestion is not coming. We have to manually import it. Okay. Now here I have to write provider dot of context in the same way, top level provider, that the provider controller name, and we have to write stored number, that the getter we made there. Okay. But as the stored number is the integer, we have to convert to the string so that it can be shown in the text widget. But that's not completed actually. There is many more catch in the state management. I am now going to tell you some points about that provider. Please keep in mind, or you can take the point of it that is very much helpful when you go through the provider as well. When we write that kind of line under a method or under that method, just like on pressed, under a method or function, or that can be callback method, we have to must mention listen false, because here we declare listen false, because we have to, if we go here set data, we just forget to write one more line here, that is notify listeners. So what that notify listeners? So as you know, state help you to update the widget in that particular stateful widget. In the same way, notify listeners help you to update the state in the entire Flutter app. Okay, just like when you write here notify listeners and there is any value changes in that number variable, that value automatically get fetched by the stored number method. Okay, just like now here is the 126, so that when we click on that plus button, that number will be come and stored in the number variable. But when we write here notify listeners, that number automatically get fetched in that second screen at that line when we write here notify listeners. Okay, So notify listeners actually updating the state in the entire Flutter app, but the say state actually helps you to update the widget state in that particular widget, in that particular stateful widget basically. Okay, so notify listeners is work in a broad level, say state is work in a small level or in a particular widget state. Okay, now that's the main things of the notify listeners. Now come in the main screen. Here the case of listen false, because when we update that entire state, we don't want to listen that the changes when we want to give the value here. That's why we write here listen false. Okay, because we just want to set the container value from here, not we want to listen what the changes in the container value from here. Okay, so when we don't want to listen the changes, what is changes in that container value, we have to write listen false. Okay, so just remind one thing, whenever in a function or whenever in a method, if a widget tree is not building, you have to write listen false. That's the main fundamental. Okay, just like in that onPress method, we are not making any kind of widget tree, so we write here listen false. Okay, but in that second screen, that the line provider dot of top level provider stored number dot to string, that line is present under that widget tree. That actually a widget tree from that scaffold. Okay, so that actually a inner widget tree. So we call a provider getter from a widget tree, and we want to listen the changes. We want to listen the changes that is happening in the main screen. Just like through that line, we want to say that Flutter here whatever changes is making by the user in the main screen, let me listen here from the second screen. That we want to tell. So here we want to listen the changes. So we don't here have to write listen false, because by default listen is always true. So if you want to make the listen false, you have to manually write the listen false. But if you want to listen the changes, you don't have to write anything, because by default listen parameter is true. That's the main thing. So that's why you can update or manage the state in Flutter. But there is also a catch present now. Just hot reload it and click on that plus button. You can see there is some error coming in the terminal. So what that error? That happens because you used a build context that does not include provider of your choice. I tell you in a simple way, just like when you want to use any provider, you have to wrap the widget tree with that provider. Just like here you use top level provider, you have to wrap the total widget tree with that top level provider. Okay, so what we should do, go to the main screen, and here in that material app, wrapped with a widget name as multi-provider, we have to import provider dot dot. Here under that multi-provider, just write the parameter name providers, and we have to provide that here list. So provider, if you can see, it is a list of single child widget. Here what you have to write, you have to write change notifier provider, and here you have to write create, and here what you have to write, with our provider top level provider. I'll copy from here, come here, and I have to first import that top level provider file. So provider top level provider. Okay, so here I have to write top level provider. So if I just zoom out somewhat, okay, so here you can see how can we wrap a widget tree through a provider. So that way you can wrap the widget tree through a provider. So just like top level provider, we can make as many provider as we want in our Flutter app, as many as you want. So what we have to do, whenever we make a provider, we have to include that provider in that providers list as well. So just like I make here another provider, just like top level, theme management provider. So we have to make that theme management provider under that provider file. But you have to write, you have to add that theme management provider. If you define under that provider list along with that change notifier provider. Change notifier provider and here the provider name. So just like theme management provider, and that's it. Now when you change anything in the root of the project, what you have to do? As you know, yes, you guess it right, I make a hot restart here. So our app is hot restarted. Now if I now before clicking on that, just come here, navigate, and it is showing -1. Because why it is showing -1? As you know, in the top level provider by default we give that container, under that container that variable number value is -1, and that method is not called yet because we not yet tapped that plus button. So now if we tap that plus button, that number changed to 127. So let's see if it is work or not. Here you can see in the second screen it is showing 127. So just like if you increase here up to 140 and navigate here, you can see here 140. So what's happening here? We are just updating the state of the main screen. Alongside, we also updating the state of the second screen. So our widget state updation also helps the state updation of another widget. In our case, main screen state updation also helps us to update the state of second screen. And that's all about state management. So that's all about the basic of state management. There is more things about the state management that we learn in the incoming videos of that series. So stay tuned for that. Hope you love this video. If you love this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe this channel. The next video of the series is coming very soon, and that will be very more interesting. So stay tuned for that. Have a nice day. Bye.